can also see Tiggs' character on the ice. So
he's a bull. First of all, you're a beast, bro. You're like my kind of guy. Like I love playing with you.
And he defends his teammates. Like
coming from this guy. Coming from
but no, I'm all right.
Even when we were playing,
I didn't shoot too much.
No, dude, you're the. Bro, this guy's a leader, man. This guy's a leader.
I appreciate it.
But even when we were playing downtown, the grind line. But even when we played downtown, Tiggs was always the first one to defend teammates. Like he'll scrap 100%. For the boys, like he'll do what it takes to win, and it just you see what type of character he is on and off the ice. It's the same type of of passion, of love, and you can relate to that too, Alex. Like you block shots, and
it's so rare when you find guys that are just. Even though it's men's league, we get it, you know what I mean? But you find guys that when they get on the ice, it's like a switch goes on. It's like, okay, like I'm in, like you said, you're in boxing. Like it's almost like you're on stage. Like all the thinking of your life, your business, your family kind of goes out the window for the hour. Yeah, it's like on the ice for the boys, you're going to war. Like even me, like I'm different. I'm off the ice. When I'm on the ice, I know like things come out of me. Like I'm just we want to win. Yeah, right. And I saw it in you. I was like, bro, this is like unreal. Like I was very grateful, to be honest, to have like, teammates that, obviously men's leagues, it's kind of casual. A lot of guys just go for fun.
Yeah, but you want to make good use of your time.
We make good use of the time, and like it was unreal. I remember the one time you were, do you remember that one guy, that big tall guy you wanted to fight one time? Like, but you're so exhausted. You were like so exhausted. You were like coming off the bench and you were hugging him pretty much like. Do you want to fight or no? Like, okay, like, yo, good job. And you went back on the bench. You're like, oh, good thing you want to fight. I'm exhausted. Like, he was like 6'4".
I can't remember.
I've never seen him turn down. Like, every time someone has been chirping
or
whatever, he goes up to like, yo, do you want to go?
He was asking him. You were asking the guy.
I was raised like that. My dad and older brother did not give me the option. Like, if I remember as a kid, there was I was skating with my buddy Tonino. I was skating. His dad used to coach the York Toros. Okay. So they had this big kid, Brett Shaw, great guy. We ended up becoming great friends, but big guy. He was like at 14, he looked like a man. Okay.
That happens a lot though. A lot of the younger guys just hit the puberty really fast.
So me and him got into it. Doesn't my dad come to the dressing room after the skate and he's like, "Get undressed. You guys are fighting." My dad's like, "You're going toe to toe right now." He's like, you're gonna learn to like not be afraid of anybody.
Jeez.
I'm like, I'm not. I fought him already. And he's like, okay, but you know what I mean? I was like, we had to have a conversation at like 14, and he's like, okay, you sure you're not afraid of him? Okay.
Wow.
So it's like, yeah.
And did you get in a lot of fights growing up in hockey? Like, were you like a fighter or like just to stand up for your teammates?
Yeah. I wasn't like, I'm not the guy who's gonna go out and drop the gloves for the team. I would do it if no one else was stepping up to the plate, I would do it.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
I've never seen him start a fight. It's just like,
but I won't turn him down either, right?
Yeah, he's a hero.
You answer the bell.
You come in when the bat signal goes up. You're there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not even like I'm not trying to be a hero out there or anything, but it's like I'm engaged, man. Like when I'm there with the boys, again, I don't consider friends as just like disposable people. Like people I consider friends, like people I message and talk to, people I would sit down with and have this conversation. Like you're an extension of my family. And I think some of that comes with life lessons and realizing, you're here today, gone tomorrow. You never know when your time comes, and you got to be grateful for what you have in life.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Yeah.
What would you like? I mean, in terms of, we have different listeners, and with this, like, has it been another hit for you in the business with this new 28-day lockdown here? Is it kind of now just like, it's routine, you've kind of gotten a better system going?
Yes and no. It's we're in a better place now because we know what to expect and what precautions to take and how to react. We have, we already have the barriers. We're already disinfecting everything, people with masks. You kind of feel like you got kind of sucker punched though, because it's like we've had the patios outdoor the whole time, and like they didn't put another pause on anything. And now that it's getting colder and we can't really have people on the patio, they're like, oh, we're going to stop dining. I understand if we want to take precautions to protect the priority people, the people whose immune systems are compromised. But I don't think the solutions provided were the right solutions. And the other issue I have, again, I'm no scientist, I'm not a doctor.
No, but yeah,
I'm not
share
here
your
to
opinion,
argue
man.
anybody's opinions. I'm speaking from my own perspective. The thing that doesn't sit well with me is how you're going to isolate restaurants. You're gonna isolate restaurants. So restaurant dine-in is at a halt.
That's
now.
where COVID likes to go. Is restaurants.
You know what I'm saying? It's
yeah,
like,
it likes
how
cookies. COVID likes cookies.
Dude,
this place is awesome for cookies.
You know what I'm saying? It's like we're taking all the precautions. If you dine in, anybody who comes in and does dine in, you have to sign in. We have your name. We have your information. If anybody gets sick, we contact the entire list.
You know what's unfair too? You guys haven't had any breakouts here. You guys have been following procedures, not one.
Knock on wood.
And yet you get the same you get the same treatment of having to shut down as everyone else who, might have had an outbreak or it's not fair when you guys have been following the exact guidelines what the city have been telling you and you still get penalized for 28 days. And the stupid thing I don't agree with the 28 days thing, which I said last episode is that, okay, let's say after this 28 days, the numbers go back down. Once you open things back up again, if numbers go back up, you're going to go for another 28 days? Like, at some point, you just have to let people live their lives.
Absolutely.
And it's just...
I couldn't agree more.
And it's such a double standard because I told you this in the past that LCBO has been open since day one.
Of course it has.
Of course it has. And like,
it takes like, duh.
And I'm glad I can say this in front of someone who actually owns a restaurant business, who can, share their opinions, and then it's not far off from what we've been talking about.
No.
Yeah,
exactly. And like losing, your people's livelihoods. You have a family here, and you have to personally tell people, that we can't keep you around. Was it? Were you starting to bring back people when it reopened and things were kind of going again?
Immediately.
Yeah,
immediately.
And you're doing a lot of Uber Eats, like that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah. So and that's the thing, right? Again, about I've learned not to dwell on things. Like if you're presented with a challenge, like sitting there and pondering and complaining about it does not
change anything.
It doesn't change anything. It doesn't help you. You just got to adapt. You got to accept it and you got to adapt. You know what I mean? So one of the things, again, because we've been here for almost 20 years now, my brother didn't really have a big social media presence. He very, very rarely posted because a lot of it was we had our loyal customers. We had all the people who work in the area. So they just come in every day. We don't need to post, right? Mm-hmm. So he didn't want to fall into that kind of rabbit hole where a lot of like new businesses to compete, that's their claim to fame. It's like
our Instagram is lit.
Yeah, exactly, right? But in these times we've realized we have had to adapt. And now, so we've incorporated DoorDash and Uber Eats and stuff like that to kind of equal the playing field. And I really got to give it to the city of Toronto. I feel like the city of Toronto has really come together as a community to support our small businesses. And thanks to the community, we've been able to do okay. And also to the landlords.
You know what's amazing too?
The landlords gave us some rent relief as well. So.
Well, that's amazing too?
Praise God.
Seriously.
When you spoke about social media, how your brother, that wasn't a big focus for him.
Yeah.
I think it was because he let his food speak for himself, speak for the business itself.
Exactly.
That, he focused on the quality, the craftsmanship, the skill set behind it, where, the people will tell other people. The word of mouth will spread based on the experience of, of the food and the, the customer service they received here. And even for me, like, once I had the cookie, I tell everyone. I don't need to, yes, I think I posted on Instagram before, but sometimes a lot of companies, they need to, because their products are subpar, that they need to, post the viral content or a crazy food picture to make it look like what they're doing is popping, because maybe the food itself isn't very good. And I know places in the city that if you go on their Instagram, the food looks amazing, right? Once you go and try it, you're like, okay, it's hype. It's social media hype. And this place is the opposite of that.
No,
and it's hard to find places like that, right?
Yeah.
And how have you felt in terms of, in terms of, obviously it's fresh, you only lost him a year ago. What's kind of the daily reminder for yourself? Is he always kind of the first thought in the morning, like I'm doing it for you? Do you find now your presence is still here because it's something that also you want to do? How's that kind of conversation with yourself now in this kind of, you're the guy, you're running the show?
Yeah, so I'm fortunate to have the help of my older sister Kathy.
Okay.
And my brother-in-law. So he's actually been in the restaurant business for a while. He's been a general manager for the Mercado Group for quite a number of years. So he's brought some expertise to the table that's definitely helped alleviate the pressure, right?
Mm-hmm. Was it a lot of? Did you feel when you had to? Was it a decision that you could have maybe not been part of it? Did you want to kind of take some time off away from this place, or did you kind of were like, you know what, I'm gonna do this for him. I'm gonna get in the ring. I'm gonna grind. Like, did you feel like you wanted to go right away, or you're kind of like, give me some time. Let me focus on maybe what I want to do away from this.
Yeah. So it's interesting you asked that, because when essentially my brother was out in LA doing the treatment, like I told you, once the treatment had become resistant and it was no longer working, he came back to Toronto. I think his faith started to diminish a little bit, because he realized, like, Toronto had given him 6 months to live a year prior, right? So he's thinking, if this stuff out here isn't working and I'm going back to Toronto, like, my chances are slim. So he had already started those conversations with us, and he had asked, are you comfortable? Because he knows I've actually spent time managing the business. I know the lay of the land. I know what to expect. I know I've done every job here. I've done the 3 a.m. baking. I've done the sandwiches. I've done every job there is to do here. I've scrubbed the toilets, mopped the floors, absolutely everything.
The real work, man.
Yeah.
You did the real work.
And that's the only way you can learn a business, right? A lot of people think you could just prop up a business, hire people.
And like Aaron said, post on Instagram, I'm a business now.
Yeah.
But then the Instagram gets taken and deleted. You have no more business because Instagram's gone.
Yeah.
Right?
So he had asked, like, are you comfortable doing that? I know it's a big burden. You got your own full-time job. You started your own career. And if not, I'm going to sell the business to get what I can for my boys, right? My brother left 3 beautiful boys that I'm lucky to help raise. But me and my sister agreed that we would help sustain the business and run the business. So, but to that point, even though I agreed to do it because I knew that together with her help, because again, I am working another full-time job, I would need some kind of assistance.
That's
Can't
incredible.
do it all your own. But there was a moment of time after he had passed, I actually couldn't come here. And I didn't, that's not something I was able to foresee. I was like, I'll be able to run the business, whatever. It's like, I was actually driving the kitchen staff crazy, because something had changed within me to the point that nothing tasted the same, nothing looked the same. And I was like, what'd you change? Like, something tastes different. And everyone's like, dude, we didn't change anything, man. And it's like, I was just...
Did you feel like you were living in a different, almost like...
Honestly, it felt like, it felt like, honestly, for a couple months, it felt like a
dream.
Yeah, it felt like a dream or a nightmare. And I'm not sure. Dream
like
is.
You were almost maybe in simulation mode.
Yeah,
right. Just like it didn't feel like reality.
Yeah, I've had my older brother's been there for me and with me my entire life, right? So to have somebody so integral to your life, such a core aspect of your life. My brother would call me, be like, "What are you working on? What are you doing?" Constantly talking about business, constantly. And, just constantly he would reach out, go out of his way to give me links to exercise resources, just constantly trying to better me, trying to add value to my life. So when you lose that, like you're questioning your own personality and who you are as a person and who am I in my new reality, right? So, but back to my point about, it just, that experience, as tough as it was, because it was so tough, at least in my experience, it inflicted so much gratitude. I appreciate everything. The fact that I'm able to get up in the morning and go for a run, I can actually go for a run.
Amen.
My brother ate clean. He exercised. He did everything you're supposed to do to live a healthy lifestyle. Yeah. And at 45, he was diagnosed with cancer in his hip. So and the reason he was able to, so he was complaining about his hip, and the doctor told him, "Oh, it's nothing. You're 45, or you're in your 40s, and you act like you're in your 20s. You got to take it easy, do some physio." And then months later, still can't exercise. His hip still bothering him. He's like, "Yeah, take it easy." He was asking for an MRI. They did an X-ray, and they're like, "Oh, you have a hairline fracture in your hip. Take it easy, whatever." Then I think it was like a year and a half, 2 years later, they finally did the MRI, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, you have a tumor and you can't exercise." So seeing him go from losing exercise, which again, you guys know, like, it's a huge part of my life, and it was his as well. Like, I am so grateful for the fact that I can walk around. I can go for a run. I don't have any illness that's holding me back, and I can tomorrow, right? So I got to appreciate each day as it comes, So
I wanted to ask, how do you think your brother would have reacted or handled this situation? What would you think his thought process would be towards COVID and these type of shutdowns?
You think he'd be like, in terms of his faith, you're asking in terms of?
In terms of like from
just in general, like what do you think his opinion would be towards this whole like the madness what we're going through today?
Yeah, he would be a little bit frustrated again because he takes a lot of pride, and again, like he's a tyrant. Like I told you guys how much research and development. Like after he's already had a successful product, he's still trying to innovate, still trying to improve it, right? So he would be frustrated that it would technically be hindering his ability to move forward and continue to grow the business. I'm sure he would have choice words to express his frustrations, but to be honest, I have no doubt in my mind it would just roll off his shoulder, because that's something I've learned from my brother, is like the ability to continue moving forward no matter what life presents you. So for those that don't know, my brother actually had 3 Le Gourmands.
Wow.
There was Le Gourmand 1, there was one at Bloor Station, which was Le Gourmand 2, then a third at Yonge and Eglinton.
Oh, awesome.
Then he got divorced and lost it all.
Wow.
Lost it all. He got one of his friends to invest in reopening this original location, built it back up, bought him back out.
Wow.
And then grew the business. My brother went from like
he's resilient, bro.
divorced, lost his business, and built it back up, paid out the investor, kicked them out, so he's a sole owner again. And this was already, like, he did it in a few years.
Crazy.
Like most people would, like, after
Done.
like if you build 3 locations,
you were dark.
He went from 0 to hero, like doing super well, and lost it all. And if that can't shut you down, and again, and I, again, not to promote my own agenda, but simply to speak from my own experiences. If my brother didn't have his relationship with God and his strength and that added layer of support, how do you motivate yourself against all odds if you don't recognize the greater force at hand, right?
And I think that's what we're trying to force as well, is giving people those tools that your brother have, that like you have, your family has, that when things divorce, like first of all, you lose the person you choose to marry the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And then you have those businesses that you built and it's all gone. A lot of people without faith, no God, it's kind of like you get very bitter and dark, and it's very hard to rise back up.
And it's also amazing how Tiggs is here to share his brother's testimony, and
Amen.
it's even motivating me and motivating people hearing this right now.
Yeah.
So it's like see how God works, that even though your brother is not physically here, we feel his presence. Even just being we know your brother's in his own building right now, and he's proud of everything that you've done to carry on, his legacy and just everything that he stood for. So like God's always working. Always. And like it's a very powerful testimony coming from you, Tiggs, because even like I've known you for so long, Alex has known you too, and I never knew, the story of your brother and like the emotions that you felt going through, that storm. And it's uplifting to myself to know that, like if my own brother can go through this and and like see God's power and like taking away like meaningful and valuable life lessons and can learn from it, then I can learn from a distance.
Exactly. What would you tell maybe a listener listening that maybe has gone through something similar, maybe lost someone? What would you that say didn't have that mentor, didn't have that person in their corner? What was something, maybe a life lesson or a tidbit you'd give somebody that maybe has gone through something similar, to keep them kind of going in those dark spaces, in those dark times?
Yeah, I mean, again, speaking from my own experience, if there's anything I've taken away from losing someone who's potentially one of the most important people in my life, it's really to you just have to identify all that, like, at least for me, like, I really, again, you were asking me earlier, like, what do I do to kind of commemorate my brother, remember my brother?
Yeah.
I express gratitude, and it's like generally in my morning prayer. There's the odd day where maybe I forget to pray, but generally I pray every morning, and I do my little prayer, like Hail Mary, Our Father in Portuguese, and then I ask God to protect my family and accompany my brother until I'm up there with him again. But to answer your question more specifically about what can I share with a listener who may have gone through a similar experience and not have that relationship with God or in faith.
Yeah.
It's when you really when you acknowledge the fact that there is a greater force at hand and we're all here for a purpose and there is a God's plan. I don't think anybody I would be hard pressed to believe that people believe there's no meaning in life, because if there's no meaning in life, If there's truly no greater force at hand, that means there's no meaning in life, and we're just, we're here today, gone tomorrow, and nothing really matters. But that would mean there's no consequence, and nobody believes in consequence, right? Could you imagine a world where people truly didn't believe in consequence? Can you imagine that?
That's great.
Seriously.
Yeah.
If you believe that there's no greater force at hand, that means you don't believe in the fact that you're going to be held accountable for your actions, right?
That's powerful.
Right?
And that's why Alex even said...
But if you can believe that you have to act in a certain way to some extent, because you know deep down, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, if you know deep down inside that you are going to be at some point held accountable, you can't just be free to do whatever you want and disrespect people. But we believe in karma.
Yeah, and that's why Alex said how the Bible influenced the laws we have today.
Yes, we live
and
under...
people don't like to acknowledge that. Like the non-believers, I'm saying, of God, they don't like to acknowledge the fact that, our laws today are based on the Bible.
Judeo-Christian, we live in a Judeo-Christian society. So the laws are referred to stuff in the Bible, the 10 Commandments. And a lot of us, people even in Canada, in the United States, North America, we're actually subconsciously built around those systems.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the reason why there's not, yes, there is murder, stealing, lying, but there's less of it because of this God-given system. And like you said, if there was no meaning in life, people would go around robbing places, killing people. You would have... It
would be hell on earth.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
It would be worse than it is right now. And, you need to... We are trying to have people find their purpose, find their meaning of why they get up in the morning, and not only get up in the morning and go, oh, here I go, but actually be grateful that I have legs. Okay, I have lungs, I'm breathing, God gave me oxygen, I can go do things today. I have the opportunity to go do things today. We're trying to change that mindset.
Yep.
And, once you can kind of build meaning into your life that serves other people, talking to you and seeing your brother and hearing the stories of everyone's your family, people you work with, you're serving them, you're making sure they're okay. We want others to know that it's less about what God can do for you and what you can do for God's people.
Yeah.
Or what you can do for others. Once you can take yourself, out of your, woe is me and why is this all happening to me, like going and how can I help this person today? And once we get more people doing that, others doing that, you start to feel the grace and the presence of God. Regardless of, like you said, what's going on in your day, you just know, it's a good day. Regardless of what the bills are, COVID, all these things happening, you just know who you serve. You came from a place of humility and let me help you out. And it can change everything about you. It's not just I read a self-help book and, there are a few tips to switch your mindset or, positive help. It's literally going within yourself first, going within your heart and going, how can I change everything almost about me? When you add God into your life, everything starts to do that on its own.
Absolutely.
You don't have to, you and I talk about, I've gone through a similar experience to you. And, I talked about, I went to therapy and, that experience is, I think it's important to at least, I put myself out there to do a different thing, you know what I mean? Mental health. And
it's not easy.
It's very
It's been recommended to me and I can't take that step.
It's
not easy.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable talking to you guys about it because you guys are, you guys are my brothers, but
it took me 3 years afterwards. But it was, for me, it was, I did it for a bit and I still felt like maybe I got some help, some tricks, some new tools, some words to understand what was going through, but there's still the inner turmoil that was still going on. There was still the spiritual warfare I talked about before on previous episodes that I had to really get to know who I was at a bare place, all clothes ripped off, where did I come from? Why am I here? Because I don't want to get into those places that people in today's lives are living with COVID and, life is not good for most people. A lot of people, even us living in North America, we live in a pretty blessed life. We have the certain freedoms that people don't have. And I want people to not get to that place of really resentment and bitterness because we think everything is against us. God is against us. Everything here is for destruction. And, hearing, your testimony, inspires me to, want to push forward even more and work harder even more. Because there's going to be somebody else and that gets to your place one day, and I always go the lowest is the highest, the person that has the least in life, hopefully maybe one day he listens to this and says, you know what, listening to, Tig's testimony of what he went through, you know, and maybe I can do better. You
But
know,
even-
maybe I don't
even-
have to be the victim.
Even yourself, Alex, both you guys I can look to for advice, and I can look to you guys as role models for, you know, for going through trauma in a way, in the right way I would want to go through it. So you guys both could have went the opposite route, being like, fuck, you know, it's blasphemy to say this, but like, F God, I don't believe in God. God's not real. He just took away a family member. It's easy to go that route. Like,
Yeah.
and if someone were to tell that to me, I don't know how I would respond to them, because I couldn't feel that emotion. But you guys are two people sitting in front of me, and two people that the listeners can look to and be like, these guys came out of that on the side of, I see God's play like in front of me. I see God's bigger purpose for you know, for my family member, for me now, where it's like I'm taking away valuable lessons that I could actually translate to my own life, and like what you said, go forward, because you can't go back, right?
No. And to that point, it's like on the episode of Social Dilemma, you guys talk about how, you know, these social platforms can really, like, everybody's constantly comparing themselves to grand ideas, right? So it's so easy for people to be like, get down on themselves because they don't have more. But it's so easy to find someone that you're doing better than, or not even doing better than, like, but like, you have better circumstances.
Yeah.
You know, I come from a household. I was lucky. I was privileged to have both of my parents in my life.
Yep.
I was privileged to have an older brother who taught me
Amen.
lessons and showed me the ropes in business and got me into boxing. And that's the thing. I had that brief window of resentment, but then I realized, like, some of my best friends don't have siblings. I am their closest thing to a sibling.
Yep.
You know how, like, I look at that and I'm like, how can I possibly, like, it crushes me that, you know, my 3 nephews have to grow up without their father because of how important and integral he was to my life. I know he would serve the same purpose to them, if not to an even greater extent. And, you know, one of the things that really concerned me is, like, I felt like I could never fill his shoes from that perspective, right? But I looked at it and I'm like, how can I possibly be upset at God? He gave me the best older brother I could possibly ask for.
And you know, the quickest way to ruin something special is to compare it to something else.
Yeah.
Comparing your situation to someone else, comparing your blessing that God gave you to someone else's situation. That's how you ruin the things that God has meant for you, when you quickly try to compare it to something else.
Yeah.
Because God those blessings He gave are for you to enjoy. It's for your family. So, like you said, through social media, it's very easy to compare your life to others, and you know, it can put you in a negative mindset. It can put you in a positive mindset, and that's the wrong way to live life. It's not to. It's your life should never. You should never have to feel better about yourself by comparing your life to others, because that's not your life. And I always try to tell people that you know, you're your own person. You stay in if you stay in your own lane, right? You have the discipline. You have the work ethic. You have that relationship with God. You're gonna find your purpose.
Amen. And
like, even the video I shared with you, Alex, today about the term success today, I find is. There's too many different definitions for success. Yeah. Right.
I've found mine, but you're completely right.
It's today now success. It's followers. It's money. It's, you know, it's status. It's all. It's so. Everyone has their own definition of success, and if you really look down at the core of success is what you make it. Is what you make out of it in your own life.
Yes.
Nobody can tell you you're not successful. Nobody can tell you you're not successful. Nobody can tell me I'm not successful.
Exactly.
Because it's a feeling. It's a feeling of me not having to compare to other people. Of trying to, you know, look over and see what other people are doing. If you have to constantly live your life in that realm, how can you ever try to get that true satisfaction?
You'll never find the fulfillment, right? Because to your point, like, when you first get on these social platforms, you can't help but fall victim.
Yep.
You
right
know
away,
I mean?
you're like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, because you
it's
see
like
all the highlight reels, right?
Yeah, cool, this is great.
But guess what? If you think like making $1 million is going to solve all your problems, guess what? You make $1 million, you start spending more money, hanging out with people with more money, then you meet billionaires.
Then you're like, I got to level up.
Yeah, then like, where does it end, right?
Never ends.
It doesn't end. And I actually, at one point, you mentioned something that brought me back to your you guys both mentioned conditional obedience in one of your previous episodes, right? And it's funny that people often turn to, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm not singling any audience members out whatsoever. I'm guilty of this myself in my younger years, where I would, I wasn't going to church, and I wasn't praying as often, and sure enough, I get into trouble, and it's like, God, please help me.
Hey, man, hey.
But guess what?
I'm back.
Yeah, but if I had been and again, my purpose of being on this show is not to promote my own agenda. I come from a very, very, very diplomatic household, and I view all religions the same. We are all entitled to our own beliefs and whatnot. I'm strictly speaking on my own experiences, but I know now that if I remove conditional obedience and if I take the time to practice prayer and acknowledge what I'm grateful for and speak to God of the things I'm working towards, I won't have those big pitfalls where I get into trouble and I'm like in a panic because, or you turn into something like when my brother got sick. It's like, I went back to boxing because that anxiety, that
that's how you get rid of it, man.
Separation anxiety.
You gotta go.
But I was already I feel like I handled it better than everybody else in my family because I was already mentally prepared because I've learned from my brother's experiences and my brother's lessons, everything that he was able to overcome. And in my own experiences, I was telling you guys earlier, at a very, very early age, I had that kind of a moment of resentment with God, and I was blaming God for my misfortunes, and I realized like this is life, and a lot of people also like maybe people who don't practice prayer or don't have a religious background or a relationship with God, they might think like, oh, you guys like, you guys are wishing to somebody in the sky for miracles. And it's like, no, that ain't it. You know what I mean? Again, going back to power of affirmation. Yeah.
It's a feeling. You can't describe it.
And you're not asking for more. I think a lot of people think that you got to go to God to ask for more. And it's like we say, humbling ourselves and being grateful for the blessings he gave us.
Yeah.
Like you said,
if there's no hardships, how do you appreciate the blessings?
Exactly. How can
it's a cycle of life.
If I don't know loss, I don't know what it's like to have life. If I don't know death, I don't appreciate life. If I don't fail in a business, I don't know what it's like to succeed in a business. And like Aaron talked about, different levels of success. If you go to God, he will define your success. He will give you what you're meant to do. And that's why, you talk about, God.
You almost have to surrender.
You have to
surrender your personal agenda and just see, like you said, it's a feeling. You have to really.
And the best thing about it is it's free. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
And it's available for everyone.
Once you give up that control, knowing that God has a steering wheel and like I'm gonna whatever God you're gonna bless me with, whatever doors you're gonna open, I'm gonna walk through them knowing that you sent them here for me. Once you actually believe that, you don't look at problems the same way that you used to, because you're not forcing things. You're not trying to manipulate certain situations. You're letting life come to you in the way God wants you to go through life.
Yeah.
And I felt that only after losing my Instagram. Because you know how much I used to be on social media. Alex knows the story.
Yeah.
Where it's like I was living first through the social media lens before actual reality. And it was a very dangerous and depressing place because now, especially watching the show, all those emotions they talk about in Social Dilemma, I felt firsthand. We all did. I just felt it on a bigger scale because I felt like I was an influencer.
Yeah.
I'm influencing the way people are dressing. I had a brand.
Yeah.
I'm creating hype of what people want, right? What they covet, and that fuels my ego, and it leads you to a path of destruction when there's no God. And anyone who doesn't believe in God or who's just living for themselves first, eventually you go through trauma, and you don't have anyone to actually to help you push through those tough times.
Yes.
Because you think that I gotta turn to alcohol, I gotta go smoke, I gotta do all these other things, these man-made things that I'm used to do, to do to cope with these type of feelings and emotions. And I think that life is the most beautiful when you're going through it in a natural state.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and what's more natural than prayer?
I mean,
there's nothing.
Nothing's gonna fill. Even I can attest to when you lost your brother, you went to boxing to physical.
Yeah.
I think a lot of even and for me, we're all in sports. We're all athletes. We have an athletic mindset. That's how some of it we all kind of bond because we had that drive, And I think a lot of people even if they don't go to drugs, alcohol, like sports is another outlet that people don't recognize. Is like you're distracting yourself. Like for me, like, I heard you said you went to boxing. For me, it was like the gym. Like that was how I got rid of any anxiety and emotions I didn't want to deal with.
Yeah.
Like,
and you can tell in your workouts, you're dialed in.
Yeah. No one talks to me.
Like even the pace at which, like, you can tell, like, you're focusing on muscle isolation, like you're dialed in.
Yeah, like nobody, like, and it became a crutch for me where it's like, anytime it's something like spiritual, God wanted to talk to me about anxiety, whatever, like, I gotta go to the gym. I don't want to have this conversation. I don't want to have to look within myself. I'm gonna go to, I'll play more hockey, because that way I don't have to think about anything that's going on. I can just go to the gym and move weights, and I'll be so tired physically that I don't have to deal with whatever's going on spiritually. So that's something what I've learned, and when I went through, I'll talk later in later episodes about my traumatic experience. But I even had to then, because even when I was super healthy, I was like, hey, I'm doing everything right. Like I'm not doing the drugs and the drinking, but I'm still feeling like there's something I'm not working on. Like I was ignoring God, essentially. I was ignoring, like, hey, you know what? Like, you have to sit with this because I have something planned for you. And I had to get rid of, not essentially the full career, but get rid of that idea I had for myself. Like you talked about getting rid of your agenda, getting rid of the ideas and the ego you built around yourself over the years. Like I had to get rid of it and be like, okay, I'm bare now. Like I don't have anything. I'll give it up to you. And then I got to see eventually, like, okay, here is what he was talking about. Here are the blessings. I'm going to stay close to you. Like I'm going to stay close to God.
Yeah.
So that's, that's something that I tell people, because like Aaron said, you were building so much where I can be my own self. I can call every shot. And then I know a bunch of people that get there, and then the sense some shit happens and they have no one to look for. They're like, who do I go to? There's nobody there. And like I said, it's free. Like Jesus Christ, God, like that stuff's free. You don't have to be a certain race, background, class in society. Anyone can access it. And I think that's the biggest blessing.
But and also, don't you, so, as a believer in God, and after you lost your brother, didn't you find that because you believed in God and you had that connection with your brother, that you felt, now even after my time here is done, I have something to look forward to because I want to see my brother again in heaven. 100%. Didn't you feel that?
100%.
And that feeling there is something that,
that drives me. That that gives me
talk
purpose.
About that for a second.
Yeah, and like literally, like I was saying earlier, like when I pray in the morning, I do my Portuguese, like, Hail Mary, Our Father. I move into, like, I ask God to protect my family and accompany my brother until I get there. Mm-hmm. That's literally a part of my prayer.
Mm-hmm. And like, because as human beings, we always need things that we're looking forward to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So even like today when I woke up, I knew I was looking forward to coming here and doing this.
Oh, I was excited, by the way.
Yeah, we
I was
all
so
were.
pumped.
Yeah.
I was like,
I was excited too until like about
his business. Do I research one? Okay, Tiago, Tiggs. I call him Tiggs. What is it? Tiago? Yeah, okay. What's his last name, Aaron? I was like, ask him. Nunez. Okay. I'm like, do I write interview questions? Like I was like writing stuff. Like, nah, I'll just talk to him. Like I was so pumped.
We were preparing the whole week, even for this. Like we just got the like a third mic, the one that you're using right now. So we had a whole preparation. Like Omer, shout out to Omer, getting the list ready of everything. Like
appreciate you, man.
This is like before now. Thank you see, Omer. Like it's a fairly big production for one podcast. Don't you find that?
I'm surprised. Yeah. Again, this is my first time on a podcast, and I didn't really know what it takes to put one together. And the fact that you guys showed up with this and whipped this up in like 15 minutes is impressive.
But I gotta taste the best cookie in the world. So hey, I'm the winner here.
Yeah, well, you got a box to take home too.
So. Oh, look at that.
So my point there was, we all, as human beings, we all have things that we need to look forward to. That things that, because when we look forward to things, right, it gives us that sense of, I would say, excitement and enjoyment. Like there's a lot of different emotions when you're looking forward to a certain thing. So my point with this is, if you don't believe in God, right, what are you looking forward to on your deathbed or in a place of trauma of, like, let's say you got into a car accident, right, or it's something where you think your life is at risk. I just talked to them about, why this area, Queen and Spadina, I always remember it, is because during high school, right, I almost got robbed in front of this McDonald's here. So I was with me and two buddies, and two guys came out. They had guns, pulled guns on us, right? I luckily ran away because, I was scared. Like, I saw a gun come out, I ran. My buddy, he unfortunately got robbed for everything he had on him. Like, his Bape jacket, his chains, his phone, everything was gone off him, right? And my other buddy, he ran inside the McDonald's. But my point there is, a traumatic experience like that where your life is at risk. If you don't believe in God, what you have to look forward to if, knock on wood, you lose your life there? If something happens to you where you're gone, there's no more tomorrow for you. If you don't believe in heaven and God, I don't know how like it'd be an empty feeling. That's my point.
Yeah. And like I said, you're tough, man. The fact that like you ran there.
Yeah.
Like,
so I'll tell you the story.
I ran. That's instinct. That's fight or flight.
I said it was a tennis in him. The tennis in him, like the fast twitch muscle fibers.
You know
quick,
what I did?
boom.
I ran into a taxi. I ran into the taxi right in front of where the jean store used to be. Showroom used to be called Showroom.
Yeah.
There. Ran to the taxi, opened the door, shut it, locked it. And the guy, I beat him by maybe like 3 seconds, right? Where he was like shook after, because I told the taxi, I'm like, yo, Yui, pull away. The guy has a gun. And the taxi driver just pulled away, and he didn't. Luckily, he didn't shoot or anything. But it's a traumatic experience, and I prayed. I remember right after that, I was like, "Thank you, God, for you saved me." And I called my boy officer, and he's like, "Yo, I just got robbed for everything." Like, and I'm like, "Yo, luckily you didn't get shot."
Yep.
But that could happen in a split second.
Yeah. So in that situation, are you gonna like in his situation? Do you complain? Oh, I got robbed for my Bape hoodie, and like, you know what I'm saying?
Dude, I lost it, bro. Nikes.
But God gave you a pass. Like.
But that's my point.
How often does that happen, though? How often does that happen? Like, people maybe listening, like, don't practice their faith, or, don't pray often, maybe not religious, but certain traumatic experiences like that happen. Thank God. How many times do people usually say thank God? How often does that happen? All the time.
It's funny you say that because when I was a kid, I remember being a kid, and I heard this saying, nobody believes in God until they're on their deathbed. And that, like, I never forgot that. And that just, like, that's stayed with me my entire life.
Or when they have no one else to turn to and no one else can help them. Yeah. When they're in a situation where it's like they feel so lonely and like you're just like, I need to ask God for this to happen to me, for this blessing to come to me.
And I think that happens because they can feel inside that they're a part of something bigger.
Yes.
You might not have the answers. We might not have proof. I have a tattoo of Jesus. I didn't get this tattoo because I believe this is what Jesus looked like. I got this tattoo because my dad has it.
Let's see it.
And because
possibly. Is he Caucasian though? I don't think he's Caucasian.
I didn't get this
because Lil B's a sick artist. That's why you got it. Shout out to him though, right?
Yo, shout out to Lil B, man. I love but I got Virgin Mary. I got Jesus. I didn't get these because I think this is exactly what they look like, or this might not even be their skin tone. But it reminds me of the way I was brought up. It reminds me of my parents, and it reminds me of the person I was raised to be and my beliefs and everything. And it keeps me grounded. It just helps me be a stronger, confident person.
Amen.
I feel like, and to one of I can't remember what the exact question was earlier, but knock on wood, not that I expect this, but I'm at a point in my relationship with my faith where I can lose my job today, and I'm not saying this because I have we have this cafe that I can fall back on, but I can lose my job today, and I have zero doubts in my mind I'll be okay. I have zero doubts in my mind. Like whatsoever.
That's big.
Yeah.
That's a feeling that me and Alex talk about. The feeling of people that have fear, that wake up with that anxiety, the fear of either losing a job.
Yeah, or, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say that the anxieties never approach me or I've never experienced them. But at the end of the day, my faith is stronger than that.
God is your safety net. That's what you're talking about.
100%.
It's like that God's purpose is bigger than your own. Whatever plan He has for you, what you can't see yourself, bigger picture. You're gonna be okay.
Yeah,
like God put you in situations. He put people in your life that they're gonna be there for you, and you're gonna go through life the way He wants you to go through it.
Yeah.
And how, like you said, you even said it, Aaron, how big of a blessing it is that you get to have, to look forward to seeing your brother in heaven and get to experience even his kids here. Like there's no losing. No. I always say with God, there's no losing. You get to go see Him later on.
I truly believe that. Like,
100%. It's the truth, the way in the life. Like I don't mess around with in terms of that. It's the truth, the way in the life, because there is that opportunity where, one day you'll get to be reunited with Him. But I want to touch on quickly before we send off this episode, your brother's kids.
Yeah.
And how many are there? How many?
He's got 3 kids.
So how has that relationship changed with them? You being more into their life. I watch your Instagram stories all the time with them. I love them. I love watching them.
Yeah.
It warms my heart. So touch on a bit that. Hopefully they maybe listen to this ending part. I don't know if they're allowed to listen to the full thing, but
yeah, no, they're old enough. The oldest one, Liam's 18.
Okay.
And the twins are 14 now, Gavin and Miles. But first and foremost, great kids, very strong. And like I said earlier, it's an absolute privilege to help raise them now, and it's definitely affected them. I think that they've been strong about it. They've come out very strong, but it's definitely reinforced our relationship. You know, especially in the first few months. Now I've especially because now COVID, like I can't. So the twins, Gavin and Miles, they actually moved with their mother. They moved out to Hamilton.
Okay.
But my oldest nephew, Liam, he's actually living with my parents now. So I see him all the time.
That's
and,
awesome.
You know, I talk to them almost every day. I talk to Liam every day. But the twins, because I can't see them and they're always playing Fortnite and stuff like that, I try not to bother them. I'll call them and they're like, yeah, I'm playing Fortnite. I'll call you back. And I'm like, all right. But it elevated our relationship in that we understand that our relationship needs to get stronger now. And, you know, again, with the help of my sister and my parents, that I'm going to be one of their main guides through life. And they understand that. They respect our relationship. They're great kids, man. I honestly, I couldn't ask for better nephews. But
they have a great role model, man.
I appreciate that. But again, it goes back to that family union and having that strength. You know, we all share the same faith, the same beliefs. And actually, you mentioned Lil B. I'm going to tell you guys a little story that I mean, besides my immediate family, I don't think I've told any of my friends.
Oh.
But so the day before my brother passed, the doctor came into the room and he told us, like, he actually pulled us into a separate room and he had the conversation with us and he said, like, it doesn't look like your son is, he was talking to my parents. He's like, it doesn't look like your son is going to make it these next 24 hours and just, you know, prepare for the worst, get all your family here. Sorry. And yeah, so on the Sunday, the next day was March 3rd. Sunday, we were all in the hospital that day, and we saw his health was quickly depreciating. He was losing color. He was getting cold. And then once he started to, for lack of better words, once he started to flatline, his body started to, you know, react because he's gasping for air. He's going out. Our whole family kind of panicked and like gathered together and huddled and like they almost couldn't stand the sight of it. We're losing an integral member of our family here. And at one point we thought he was gone already, and he kind of jumped back up and took another breath, and I grabbed his hand, I held the back of his head, and I just like looked him in his eyes and I smiled at him. We just like looked eye to eye. He couldn't speak for quite some time at this point, and I just held his hand and I held his head, and I just told him, like, while smiling, I still to this day, I don't know how I mustered up the courage to smile, but with a smile on my face, I told him it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. I got you. I got your kids. I'm going to see you again soon. And, you know, my brother died in my hands.
Wow.
And the craziest thing about that is he always asked us, because his ex-wife, the mom side of the family isn't there. Her family isn't as close, and they don't, you know, not that they do anything incorrectly or to each their own, but they weren't as tight as a family. And one thing he always asked us to do is, no matter what, you have to keep the family dinners on Sundays. Sunday family dinners. Never let my kids stop that. They need to have that sense of family. They need to know the importance of family. And believe it or not, my brother passed away on Sunday, March 3rd at 7:30 p.m. when we're generally eating dinner. And if you can look me in my eyes and tell me that's not crazy, I don't know what to say to you.
It's the grace of God, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Man, that took a lot of strength. Like, you telling that whole situation. Like, I felt that I was there, the way you were describing that. Like, you know, we talk a lot about the Holy Spirit, and it's something that you can feel. And just there, you saying that, like, you know, Alex is getting emotional too. Like, I see it, but I felt the presence of God right there when you were describing it in the place that your brother built. And it's very touching, and, you know, thank you for having the courage and strength to share that with us, Tiggs, because, you know, like, not a lot of people, especially I know there's a lot of listeners who are going to hear your testimony, and it's going to give them strength. It's going to give them courage to maybe a lot of them, they can relate to what you're saying. And to the ones who maybe are going through something similar, they can find strength from your testimony to, apply to their own situation. And that's priceless.
Yeah.
There's no price on that. Like, even for myself, like, it's so valuable to have two people that, that I'm close to, that I can learn from. I can gain experience. Like, a lot of times today we live in a world where we think we know it all. We think we're the masters of our own world. We have everything under control. Until you don't have control, until you go through a traumatic experience like that, and you realize, the true beauty and like love behind life.
Yeah.
And
Thank you so much for sharing, Tigs.
No, I appreciate you guys having me here. Yeah. Apologies if it got a little
Never,
deep,
man. That's the point of it. That's the point of this podcast. It's supposed to be bare, and it took a lot of strength. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening to today's episode. It's been a powerful one. I've been moved, and God.
That's been the best. There couldn't have been a better first interview than this now.
We're very grateful. Thank you, God, for blessing us with this great day and this great interview, and not even an interview, just a conversation and testimony from you. Like, it's very powerful. I'm very grateful.
The conversation. Thank you, Tigs. Inviting us, into Les Gourmand. Everyone.
Do you have a verse at all that you have comes to mind for you at any of the? We usually do a verse end of the day. Do you want to pull something up? Anything that comes to mind?
I don't have a specific one in mind, but the one thing I will say before we get going here is, it's an absolute privilege to have you guys as friends, because, as I mentioned, you guys were real pillars of strength when I was going through some of the toughest times in my life. And it's an honor to sit here on this podcast with you, because, like I said, I generally don't discuss religion because I feel like it can be used as a tool to divide people. Yeah. But you guys are doing it from an educational perspective. You guys are, with all the garbage that's out on these social platforms, you guys are actually providing people with tools and resources for personal growth and development. And it's
thank you for seeing that too.
Yeah, and if anything. If there's anything I want somebody to take away from this, is you don't have to be perfect to start that relationship with God, right? Like I said, I don't go to church regularly. I'm not a perfect role model. You know what I mean? But
neither are we.
Yeah,
none of us are.
Anybody can start. It's prayer goes a long way. And I would say start with, if you can't say grace before meals, that is one thing. I told you guys, sometimes I forget to pray. Grace before meals is something I never, ever forget to do. We live in such a privileged society. We can have whatever we want, when we want. We don't even have to leave the house. Okay? If there's people who are starving, man. If you can't sit down and say grace before meals, like, just reassess. And how much you have to be grateful for.
And you're in the industry too, so you're surrounded by food the whole day.
Yeah.
And if you can tell people that as a reminder, that speaks volumes.
Powerful.
Like, even when me and Alex eat when we're out, like, we say grace too. Like, that's something that we try to implement. You
have to.
And it's like, I like how you said that, because, like you said, today everything is so fragmented right now. Everything is so fast. So fast-paced, even with COVID or not, that we need to get down to the basics and to the foundation of what it means to live for something bigger than you.
Yeah.
Right. And like, if you don't have kids or you don't have family, sometimes that could be hard to find. But no matter your situation, no matter how successful you are, no matter how down you feel, we can all pray, and God treats us all the same. And it's a feeling that, doesn't discriminate.
Amen. Thank you guys so much for listening. Stay tuned for further episodes and testimonies. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you again for allowing us.
Thank you guys. You guys are great. And like I said, for anyone who doesn't know these two individuals personally, I can tell you firsthand, these are stand-up guys. They're the real deal and very genuine, or else I wouldn't be here, right? Like, you guys, like...
It means a lot, Tix.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys, man.
It's an honor for us.
And you know me, I'm not going to support... Like, obviously, I'm going to support you guys regardless, but I'm not pumping your tires just for the sake of doing it.
We don't get free meals and stuff? We're getting free meals or what?
Buddy, after Aaron's promo intro, I might have to cut him a check.
Awesome. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again, guys.